It's a history that goes long way back to the first moment when the British Empire arrived in Palestine and bombed the country. This was in 1840. This was the first time that the British used steamboats in a major war. And steamboats represented the kind of cutting edge of a new sort of economy that ran on fossil fuels, more particularly coal. And like I said, this happened in 1840. This was a war that led to the destruction of the Palestinian town of Akka. And it led to it was around this time that for the first time the British came up with the idea of colonizing Palestine for Jews from Europe, so relocating Jews into Palestine and having them establish a colony that would serve as a kind of pillar of support for British imperial power in the region. And since then you've had this imbrication, this articulation between fossil fuels and the destruction of Palestine. Of course, you had the British Mandate when this escalated massively, the occupation of Palestine after the First World War, when the British used their control over Palestine to accelerate the Zionist colonization of the country and accelerate the extraction of oil from the region. And then since 1967 in particular, you've had this alliance between the State of Israel and the United States, which has now culminated in the genocide. And this alliance is impossible to understand outside of the political economy of the region, and it's based in fossil fuels. And these are just some of the moments of entanglement. It goes up to the destruction of Gaza that is happening right now with the fighter jets and the tanks is entirely fueled by jet fuel and petrol coming from Western sources, from refineries in the US or from oil supplied by British Petroleum and stuff like that. So the destruction of Palestine is entirely energized by fossil fuels provided by the empire as a whole. Yeah, so back then in 1840 or in the mid-19th century, steam power, like I said, was the cutting edge. It was the state-of-the-art technology for projecting power from Western Europe, more particularly Britain, across the world. And it gained its superiority from being based on a fossil fuel that was independent of weather and of the landscape and all this stuff. The situation now is, of course, very different in terms of what technologies are, the leading technologies. But what we have been seeing over the past 2 years is a genocide that is waged, executed by the most advanced technology that you have. This includes, fighter jets from the UK that are flying together with the occupation and extracting information on the resistance and on civilian targets in Gaza, to the use of AI in generating targets, to all the sorts of advanced weapons technology that the State of Israel is equipped with by its own military industry, but of course primarily by the US and secondarily Germany, which is the second major source of weapons to the entity. I have been very clear in my position on the resistance in Palestine forever, which is that I support all forms of resistance in Palestine, including armed resistance. And there is only one force that is actually trying to stop the genocidal machine in Gaza, and that is the homegrown Palestinian armed resistance in Gaza. And I hope that they can still put up a fight. Yesterday they managed to take out 4 occupation soldiers in Rafah. I hope they have prepared a good number of surprises for the occupation army when it moves deeper into the rubble of Gaza City, and that it can inflict serious damage on the occupation. It's a miracle that the resistance is still standing in Gaza and can inflict these tax on the army, and I have boundless admiration for the resistance in Gaza, and I support resistance forces in other parts of the region as well, including the Houthis, who still at least give some kind of support fire to the resistance in Palestine. Then we need, when it comes to Palestine, I mean, obviously we need other forms of resistance, ranging from the flotilla that I hope is going to approach the Gaza coastline soon, and the dock workers in various ports in Italy and Greece that have threatened to shut down all trade with Israel if the flotilla is harmed. We need massively ramped up boycott campaigns around the world. A model here is what the Colombian government has done with its coal boycott. It's probably still the only real substantial case of a boycott measure, but it's a very impressive thing. We can go into the details about what's been happening just over the past few weeks and months in Colombia. I mean, what's been happening here in Spain in recent days strikes me as, comparatively speaking, a kind of model. And you know, from my perspective, Spain comes across as a kind of corner of relative sanity in Europe when it comes to both climate and Palestine. With, yeah, everything's relative. But if you compare with Germany, or with the UK, or with France, Spain looks like almost a different planet, because that's not because things are so good here, but that's because things are so bad, particularly in Germany, but basically everywhere. With the cancellation of these military purchases, and with the announcements regarding sports and the Eurovision, stuff like that. I mean, it's symbolic, but it's still something. Yeah. The key country here is Germany, because it's the main European co-organizer of the genocide. I mean, Germany and genocides really is a whole thing. Thankfully, there is a little bit of mobilization happening in Germany. They're aiming to have the largest Palestine demonstration in the history of that country in a couple of weeks. And this is strategically very central because of the position of Germany in the whole configuration. Yeah.